Divorce happens. In fact, it happens to almost 50% of first marriages. So let's talk about it. Welcome to Divorce Happens, a podcast to educate, inspire, support, and yes, make you laugh through divorce and beyond so that you can start fresh on the next phase of your journey. Remember, divorce happens, and then we start fresh.
You get divorced. You get divorced.
Getting divorced?
I'm getting a divorce.
You're getting a divorce.
Because she's getting a divorce.
So what if I get divorced?
Hey, welcome back to Divorce Happens. Olivia here. What you're about to hear is me reading an article from the Happenstance. The Happenstance is my personal writing about family, divorce, relationships, sex, love, parenting, bodies, and more. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Happenstance so that you don't miss an article. So go ahead and take a listen, and when you're done, head over to oliviahowell.substack.com to leave your comments and questions. Let's keep this conversation going. A couple of days ago, Jen Hamilton posted a video about getting things done around her house now that she doesn't have a husband there. She saw something that needed to be done, and then she did it. That was it. There was no committee meeting, no 6-month waiting period, no extended conversation about the best possible method. No man standing in the middle of the kitchen saying he was going to take care of it while also somehow preventing anyone else from taking care of it. She just did the things herself. And I thought, yes, this. I have been saying this for years. Jenny and I used to joke that I was going to write an article called The Cost of Not Having a Husband. Because sometimes the best money you will ever spend is the money you are finally allowed to spend once your husband is no longer there telling you he will get to it eventually. But it isn't only about the money. It is also about time. It is about how much faster your own labor becomes when you are the only person making decisions about it. When you live alone, or when you are the only adult managing your home, you notice that things simply get done. You wipe down the counters because they are dirty. You replace the shower curtain because it is moldy. You move the lamp because the room is too dark. You throw away the broken toothbrush holder and buy another one. You do not spend 3 weeks discussing a toothbrush holder. You do not have to present several possible toothbrush holders for review. You do not have to explain why the current toothbrush holder has become an urgent quality of life issue. You do not have to hear that the old one is technically fine, even though it is cracked, impossible to clean, and has been irritating you every morning for the past year. You buy the toothbrush holder, you put the toothbrushes in it, the end. This sounds so small, and that is exactly the point. A tremendous amount of a woman's life can be consumed by tiny negotiations that theoretically do not require two people in the first place. By the time the decision is finally made, the woman could have completed the task herself 3 times. People talk constantly about the financial cost of divorce. They talk about maintaining 2 households and dividing assets and paying lawyers and losing the economies of scale that supposedly come with marriage. But we rarely talk about the economy of obstruction. We rarely calculate what it costs to have another adult in the house who does not want to do something, will not hire someone else to do it, and still believes they should retain veto power over how and when it gets done. And we rarely calculate the hours women lose explaining, reminding, debating, researching, following up, backing off, trying again, and finally, doing the thing themselves. That is labor too. Your unpaid labor is worth more when you are allowed to complete it efficiently. The work itself may not disappear after a husband leaves. You may still be the one cleaning the kitchen, reorganizing the closet, buying the shower curtain liner, and figuring out why the bathroom sink is draining slowly. But the negotiation layer disappears. You are no longer managing the task and managing another adult's relationship to the task. You are no longer washing the counter while also defending the decision to buy a different cleaning spray. You are no longer fixing the curtain rod while listening to someone explain that they had been planning to fix it. You are just doing the work. And there is an enormous difference between labor and labor performed under observation, commentary, resistance, or delay. It is not always that the spouse is incapable. It is that they are perfectly capable, theoretically. They could paint the window trim. They could finish the floor. They could call the handyman. They could wash the laundry. They just don't. But because they could, you are expected to wait. This was the story of my house. There were so many small projects that needed to be completed, not catastrophic projects, not a collapsing roof or a flooded bathroom, just the ordinary maintenance of a family home, the things that make a house feel cared for instead of perpetually halfway abandoned. We had windows replaced, but the areas around them needed to be repainted. The kitchen floor needed new vinyl flooring. My stepdad helped put down part of it, but the job was never finished. Half the floor remained undone until I eventually moved out. We needed pegboard in the garage so the boys' helmets and outdoor things could be hung up instead of thrown in piles. The basement really, really needed to be cleaned out. These were not enormous undertakings. They did not require a home renovation, an architectural plan, or a second mortgage. They required a Saturday afternoon, a phone call, or a few $100s paid to someone who knew what they were doing. But none of them got done while I was married. Don't worry, though. The living room was fully outfitted with surround sound. The wires were beautifully hidden, time had been taken, research had been conducted, holes had been drilled, equipment had been selected and installed with care. So it was not that my spouse was incapable of completing household projects. He was extraordinarily capable when the household project was something he wanted. This is an important distinction. Many women are told that their husbands simply aren't handy, or don't notice things, or aren't good at that kind of stuff. And yet, somehow the television is mounted. The gaming system is connected. The speakers work. The problem is not always ability. Sometimes it is priority. Sometimes a spouse's competence magically appears when the task serves them, entertains them, interests them, or makes their life more comfortable. Meanwhile, the practical household projects remain suspended in time because they do not belong to them in the same way. They benefit the family. They make the home more functional. They reduce the woman's labor. And that does not create the same urgency. There was always this implication that these things would eventually be handled. And because someone was going to handle them, I was not supposed to hire anyone else. Except someone did not handle them. So the unfinished project became a permanent feature of the house. It became another thing I walked past every day, another small visual reminder of what I could not make happen. There is a particular madness in living with someone who will not complete a task, but also will not release the task. It is not exactly laziness, it is territorial. He has claimed the job, which means you cannot claim the solution. When my younger son was about 1, I broke my toe badly enough that I was told I could not walk on it properly for 3 months or I might need surgery. Our washing machine and dryer were in the basement. My spouse would not do the laundry. To be fair, he tried once. I want to be clear here. This was a capable adult human being. He had a job. He could drive a car. He could use complicated equipment. He could install surround sound and hide the wires. He could have done laundry. But I knew that asking him would become an entire event. There would be a lot of resistance. I could not physically carry the laundry up and down the basement stairs, and I did not want to fight about whether my husband should wash his own family's clothing while his wife had a broken bone. So I hired someone. They came to my house, picked up the laundry, washed it, folded it, and brought it back. I paid for the entire family's laundry out of my own money. And honestly, it was wonderful. The laundry disappeared and returned clean. No one sighed at me. No one acted like I'd asked for a kidney. No one needed to be congratulated for knowing where the detergent went. It was a completely functional exchange. I needed help, someone was willing to provide it, and I paid them. This is one of the things I learned after my marriage ended. Sometimes paying a stranger is significantly less expensive than asking your husband. Not necessarily in dollars, in energy, in negotiation, in resentment, in the hours you spend preparing to ask, asking gently, reminding him, trying not to sound critical, reassuring him that you know he is busy, and then either doing it yourself or hiring someone 3 months later anyway. After my husband moved out, I started getting things done around the house almost immediately. I had the office painted, I had areas of the house touched up and repaired. I called people, I made appointments, I paid them. They came over, they did the work, and they left. It was almost alarmingly easy. But I also did things myself. I cleaned out areas I had been avoiding, I rearranged things, I fixed small problems as I encountered them. I made choices without having to forecast another person's reaction to every choice. That was the part I had not expected. I knew I would have more freedom. I did not realize I would have more time. Not because the work vanished, because the friction vanished. The issue had never really been that we could not afford to hire someone. None of these jobs cost an extraordinary amount of money. The problem was that he did not want to pay someone because he was going to do it himself. Someday, eventually, when he had time, after he researched it, when he found the right tool, when life calmed down. There was always a theoretical future version of him who was extremely handy and available. Unfortunately, I was living in the house with the present version. And once he was gone, I no longer had to honor the imaginary plans of a man who was not doing the actual work. I could simply solve the problem. After divorce, people asked me how I did everything alone. The answer was, there was no one standing between me and the solution. I did not have to double-check everything with another adult who was not doing the work. I did not have to convince someone that the basement needed to be cleaned. I did not have to live with half a kitchen floor because someone had once announced that he had planned to finish it. I did not have to spend an afternoon talking about a task that would take 20 minutes to complete. I could decorate the way I wanted. I could move the furniture. I could hire the person. I could spend the money. I could make the appointment. I could wash the counter without receiving notes from management. I could ask for help without proving that I deserved it first. And I could trust my own judgment about what needed to be done. There is a popular idea that a woman without a husband must be doing everything alone. Sometimes she was already doing everything alone. Now she is simply doing it without interference. The house may have one fewer adult in it, but it also has fewer arguments, fewer stalled decisions, fewer unfinished promises, and fewer invisible checkpoints between a problem and its solution. She can look at the wall and decide she wants it painted. Then she can paint it. Or, and this is the truly revolutionary part, she can pay someone else to paint it. The cost of not having a husband can be enormous. The legal bills, the moving expenses, the second set of furniture, the years spent rebuilding your financial life. But there are savings too. You save time. You save energy. You save the small daily humiliation of begging another adult to participate in the life he also lives. You save the hours spent negotiating over objects, repairs, plans, and choices that never needed to become negotiations. And sometimes spending money is what saves you money. Before I moved out of our house, I finally had all the work done that needed to be done for years. Every room was repainted. The kitchen floor was finished. The downstairs half bathroom, which desperately needed a complete overhaul, was redone. All of it took a few days, not years, not an endless series of Saturdays, not the arrival of some future version of a husband who suddenly had time, interest, and correct tools. A few days. I spent around $10,000, maybe a little less. It was not a small amount of money, but it was also not the impossible expense the unfinished work had been made to feel like for all those years. I made the decision. I hired the people. They did the work. I got my time back. We had already moved out by the time the house was shown. There were 80 showings, and it sold for significantly over the asking price because it looked like a brand new house. The rooms were clean and freshly painted. The flooring was complete. The bathroom was beautiful. All the things we had spent years living around were suddenly finished. That $10,000 did not disappear. It came back to me, and then some. The money I had supposedly been wasting by hiring people became an investment with an extraordinary return. This is what I mean when I say it was easier without a husband. It was not only that I could finally choose the paint color or call the contractor. It was that I could make a clear economic decision without spending months negotiating with someone who was neither doing the work nor allowing me to solve the problem another way. I paid skilled people to complete this labor. They completed it quickly. I used my time for something else. The house became more valuable, so did my time. For years, the unfinished work had been presented as the cheaper option. It wasn't. Waiting had a cost. Living around it had a cost. Thinking about it every day had a cost. The hours I would have spent trying to finish it myself had a cost. And the house being worth less because we had postponed basic maintenance had a very real cost. Sometimes the most financially responsible thing a woman can do is stop waiting for a man to get around to it. Sometimes she hires the painter. She finishes the floor. She renovates the bathroom. She sells the house. And she gets her money and her life back. A few books to read next. This is not a new conversation, of course. Women have been writing, researching, and screaming into the void about unpaid labor, invisible work, domestic inequity, and the cost of trying to build an ambitious life inside systems that were never designed to support us. Here are 3 books I have read and highly recommend. The Ambition Penalty by Stephanie O'Connell, No More Mediocre by Laura Danger, and Fair Play by Eve Rodsky. All 3 of these books approach the subject from slightly different directions, but they arrive at the same essential truth. Women's time is not an endlessly renewable household resource. Our attention has value, our labor has value, our ambition has value. And the systems that waste those things are costing us far more than we have been taught to calculate. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being here. If this one stirred up something for you, I want to hear about it. Head to oliviahowell.substack.com, leave a comment, ask a question. I read it all. And make sure you're subscribed to the Happenstance so that you never miss a thing. I'll see you next time. Divorce Happens is produced by Fresh Starts Registry, the only divorce registry platform for everything you need to begin again, including home items, hype team, and everything in between. Remember, divorce happens, and then we start fresh. We're here to support you before, during, and after divorce. Head to freshstartsregistry.com for more info.